Welcome to Let Out the Clutch, brought to you by Biker Attorney. Today I'm happy to have Lieutenant Strader from the Edmond PD with us. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, you've been in Edmond PD for how many years now?
So February was 29 years.
Long time. Now, I'm always interested in the motorcycle stuff. That's what this broadcast is about.
Sure.
So, you're over the motor unit, is that right?
I am, yes. I've been supervising the motor unit for about 7 years now.
So, tell us what's going on with the motor unit now. Are you guys building back up again, or what's going on?
We are. At our high point, I think we had 6 motor officers plus a supervisor, so 7 total. We got all the way down to just me for a little while. And now we just put on a 2-week course and put on some new motor officers. We've got one that's riding with me now, and then we're going to put on another one in July.
So, what are the qualifications for someone to be a part of your unit?
So they got to go through an interview process. Obviously, they have to put the interest in. And
Do they already have to be officers first?
yes, they have to be a police officer. And I think for a motor officer, you have to be a police officer off probation for 2 years before you can even apply for the unit.
What else from there? Do you obviously have to have a motorcycle license, or do you?
You do not. In fact, funny story is, I first got on motorcycles at the department in 1998. I had never ridden a motorcycle in my life. I was 28 years old at the time, and I thought, in high school, I always wanted a motorcycle. And my parents were like, absolutely no way, which thank goodness, because that would not have been a good decision. But so when I got on the department, I saw they had a motorcycle unit, it piqued my interest. And I thought, well, I'm going to put in for it. And they taught me how to ride from like, this is a clutch, this is a throttle, and this is how you make the motorcycle go. And so that's how I learned.
That actually might not be a bad idea. I tell a story. I was riding motorcycles a long time, and then I joined the Air Force. And the Air Force wouldn't let me ride on base without going through their training, and I
Right.
was kind of arrogant. I'm like, why do I do this? I've had a motorcycle for 8 years now, or however many years, and I don't need to go through their classes. And they put me through a couple of day classes for Motorcycle Safety Foundation, and I found it was challenging
Yeah.
because I hadn't thought about the slow speed skills and stuff like that. So maybe if you do it the way you did it, you don't learn bad habits from your start.
Exactly. And yeah, I had no bad habits to break because I didn't have any habits at all. And so I found it obviously challenging, very frustrating at times, but once it clicked and yeah, we've had officers that have been riding for a long time and have, been to Sturgis and put on thousands of miles on a motorcycle, but have never tried the slow speed stuff. And it's a big challenge for them, and some of them don't make it.
Well, that's where you drop your bikes. I'm a Sturgis guy, and I go most every year, and you're going to 100% of your trips see people drop bikes.
Sure.
And it's never at speed because the bike wants to stay up at speed. It wants to fall over at slow speed. So they'll grab the front brake at a slow speed in a turn and parking lot or something like that. But you're going to drop a bike in slow speed. So that's probably
Right.
the most difficult riding there is.
Yeah. And if you can get confident at your slow speed riding and make sharp turns and look good and feel confident, the faster you go, the easier it is. That's what it's about, being confident and knowing your ability on a motorcycle.
Especially on an 800-pound Harley-Davidson.
Yeah,
So the guys right now, they just went through some training and they're on the force now.
correct.
Now, do you hire lateral from other units, other police forces, or does it have to come from Edmond PD?
They have to come through Edmond.
So how many do you want to build up to? What's your optimum number of riders?
So I would love to get us back up to 6 officers and then a supervisor, but we're just kind of waiting on personnel. We got to wait. When people retire, we got to fill those spots, and patrol obviously is filled first. We got to have officers to respond to crime and things like that. And then since the motorcycle unit is a traffic special unit that does mostly just traffic enforcement and works collisions, that's kind of a luxury that if we don't have enough people, we can't man.
What's a day in the life of a motor cop on a bike?
So, well, it depends. We got different shifts that we work. Now, if you work the morning shift, you have to go to a lineup and, the patrol, you sit in with the patrol and they get their briefing. But then after that, it's mainly, especially during school, it's school zones. We try to get out and hit those school zones and be out there and be visible, and so slow
Do
people
they work in
down.
pairs or they work by themselves?
Now, if we have enough, like when we used to, we would work in pairs. Um, but obviously, it's just me and another motor officer right now. So I have to spend a lot of time in the office, more time than I'd like to. But yeah, he's out there on his own a lot.
Now, I want to talk to you about something I saw on the internet. You guys have some training for the public as well, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today because I've had people on the show that race at Hallett and do different things, and I've had some people that build custom bikes and go fast on a racetrack or whatever it is. But for the average guy on the street, you have some training available for us as well.
Yeah, so the department started this back in, I think, 2008. We were seeing some motorcycle fatalities that shouldn't have been, just with rider error, and a little bit of training would have saved these people's lives. And so the department stepped up and said, you know what, we need to put on a class. We're lucky enough to have a good motor unit that has this knowledge and training. Let's share it and try to prevent some crashes.
So when is the class going to be held, or is there more than one class?
So right now we partner with the Oklahoma Highway Safety Office, and they give us a grant to provide these classes for free. So it's no cost to the public, and we've got them publicized on our website. So it used to be edmondpd.com, but I think they've kind of redirected that. But if you Google edmondpd.com, it will get you to that page, and it's under our programs, civilian motorcycle class. And we do a level 1 and a level 2.
Now, what is a level 1 experience could be like for a rider coming in?
So a level 1 is we start with the basics, not as much as Motorcycle Safety Foundation, like not a brand new rider. These are people that have already been riding, and so they do have some skill set, but we try to improve on that. But we do starts and stops, because I see a lot of riders that will drag their feet after the motorcycle's already in motion, and we don't want that. So we start with starts and stops, what that looks like, proper body position. Then we go into picking up the motorcycle if it goes down, how to properly pick it up where you don't hurt yourself. Those things are heavy, like you said, 800 pounds. And if you're trying to yank that thing up, and it's so easy to hurt yourself. And so we do a proper way to pick it up, where if you're out by yourself and there's no help, that even, elderly or not the most strong people can pick it up.
And that's a level 1 class.
Yes, sir.
What is required for them to attend besides registration? They have an endorsement?
Yeah. Well, they don't have to have an endorsement since it is private property. We do this on private property. They would have to trailer it there, obviously. Can't illegally ride it there.
I've heard stories about that.
Yes. But yeah, you don't need it. Most of them have it. Just like I said, most of them have the riding skills already. But just to get a little bit more in depth on what we do, we after picking up the bike, we get into some cone patterns, some slow speed cone patterns, and you'd be surprised on how many people don't actually turn the handlebars when they ride. They do a lot of leaning and make the motorcycle turn by just leaning, and which is fine when you're going at higher speeds. But as you know, in lower speeds, you actually have to turn and look where you want to go. And so we do a lot of slow cone patterns that work on the clutch, throttle, a little bit of brake, a little bit of rear brake. And so we get it's a lot of fun, because it's usually about a 6-hour day of nothing but riding.
Where's it held?
It's at Fire Station 5,
Okay.
which is off Covell and I-35. They've got a beautiful pad.
Okay, so slow speed cone work, starting, stopping, what else? Picking up the bike.
Picking up the bike, starts, stops, and then, tight turns, like you're pulling into a parking lot. One of my pet peeves is seeing motorcycles nosed into parking spots. If it's not a hill or anything, it's just a flat parking lot, and then you'll see somebody just nosed in, and then they have to walk it back afterwards. So we teach, you find a parking lot where there's a couple spots that are open, and you
And how to turn it in.
do a nice little turn, look good, put your foot down, put the side stand down, and then when you get on your bike, you just pull out. You don't have to do any of this duck walking stuff.
So they don't need an endorsement, but if they don't have it, they better trailer the bike. Is there a certain size of bike they're required to have?
Ooh, good question.
Is there a minimum CC?
No, you know, we just there's really not, as long as it has clutch throttle. We don't do trikes.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not set up for trikes because a lot of it is balance. And then, yeah, I think that's about the only thing.
What about safety gear?
So safety gear is they do have to have a long sleeve shirt, preferably like a motorcycle jacket or something with some kind of lining, Kevlar or whatever, that's going to protect them if they fall. Long sleeve or pants, can't be wearing shorts. Boots that cover your ankles, gloves, not fingerless,
And a helmet?
and a helmet, and eye protection.
Do they have a full face or can it be an open face helmet?
It can be open, yeah, half shell.
Now I want to talk about the level 2. Now, what is that like?
So the level 2 builds upon the level 1, and the way we run our classes is it's kind of a stair step approach. You know, we kind of give you one skill and then build on that, incorporate another one, and so then the level 2 just kind of goes into what we did in level 1, but we get into a little bit higher speed stuff. We get into some emergency braking, some braking in a corner, which I don't know if you're aware or not, but that's where most of the fatalities occur on motorcycles is high speeds into a corner.
Yeah, they enter a turn too fast and they try to decelerate, and it's much better to have your speed down before you enter the turn than afterwards, because when you start adding brake to a lean, it's going to start going on the side.
Yeah, which there is a proper way to brake in a corner. You know, some people call it trail braking, which is kind of a scary term for some people because they think it's like a racing term, but it can be very effective.
So you put them through exercises and get them better and more comfortable on the bike.
Yes.
And do they have to have gone through level 1 to get to level 2?
They do.
That just makes sense.
Yes.
How many riders per class?
We try to max it out at about 30.
That's a pretty good number.
Yeah, it's we're very fortunate to have that large a space to, you know, provide this training. But 30 starts getting a little cramped, and so we have usually about 6 instructors for 30.
Is there any type of certificate or something that would help with their insurance afterwards?
They do get a certificate at the completion of the class, and I have heard that some insurance companies will reduce their rates for that.
But this is not for beginner riders. This is for someone that already has some experience.
Yes, I mean, it's not like this is the first time they've ever been on a motorcycle, and because we don't give the endorsement. That's a common question I get is, will this get me my endorsement, my motorcycle endorsement? And it will not. The only one that will do that is the MSF course.
And I'm hoping to have a guest on in the next few weeks that talks about getting the endorsements, because I don't want to be a hypocrite and I don't wear all the gear all the time and follow all the rules that people talk about when riding a motorcycle, but I really want people to out there to have their motorcycle license when they ride, because I think you have to have certain base skill set, and you need to have that endorsement. And as an attorney, I want you to make sure you have insurance, and if you don't have your endorsement, there's some complications and cases if you don't have your endorsement. But I want people to have their endorsement, so I'm trying to find more resources for them to get their endorsements.
Yeah.
But this does not provide that.
No, which is okay with us because it's such a stringent, you have to follow certain criteria to get that through the state. One thing that we are trying to change is, so right now, if you're 18 or older, you're not required to go through any kind of motorcycle safety course
To get your endorsement.
to get your endorsement.
That's correct.
All you got to do is show up for the test, take the written test, and then they just put like a little mic, I think, in your ear or something. And then they say that they put you on your motorcycle and they follow you around the block and they watch you stop at a stop sign. They say, turn right here, turn right here, turn right here, and then you're done. No slow speed cornering, no high speed braking, no skill set whatsoever. If you can balance a bike good enough to go around the block, you pretty much got your endorsement, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, I got mine back in the early 80s, maybe late 70s in South Carolina, and I think they just watched me from standing on the sidewalk or something. we didn't have microphones on my ear, and I just think they had me do a U-turn and maybe some S-turns. I don't even remember that, but I remember taking it on my own motorcycle back then
Yeah,
to get my endorsement, but it wasn't much to it.
there really isn't, and it hasn't changed much. So this last class that we just put on, it was about 6 months ago. So the new officer I was telling you that's on motors now, he was like me. He'd never ridden a motorcycle before. So we started fresh with him, which was, I could relate. And so we walked him through it, and he caught on pretty well, pretty quick. He's an athlete, and so he had that eye
The
hand
balance.
coordination and all that. So we got him through the 2 week course. He passed everything because we have to do a final test at the end, and you can only hit so many cones or
And this is
whatever.
for the motor training.
Yeah, this is the 80-hour motorcycle class that we put through to be a motorcycle officer for the police department.
Where is that held here or someplace else?
We hold it out there at Fire Station 5 as well.
Okay, so go ahead. What happened?
So we put him through all that. He passes. Obviously, he had a lot of experience picking up the motorcycle, as we all did when we went through that course. But then he never had his endorsement. So we had to ride a motorcycle down to DPS or wherever they do their motorcycle license. And so we rode the motorcycle for him. He got on it, and then the trainer or the certifier, got behind him and followed him in a car. And that's all he had to do was just go like to a stop sign. He probably could have did that day one after 1 hour of training, which is just scary.
Yeah, I can see the need for some training before you ride a motorcycle. And in the training, they also need to cover the safety things of the motorcycle, like air pressures and that kind of stuff too, because
Yeah.
those can cause a lot of crashes too.
Yeah.
So you've been on the force for a long time in the motor unit and I'm sure you've worked wrecks, and I'm not going to talk about some friends of ours that have passed on motorcycles, but what are the common things you see people doing in the motorcycles that they could have avoided a wreck ahead of time if they'd have done something different?
Well, number one, wear a helmet. I cannot stress enough how important wearing a helmet is.
I'm going to tell you a story that you don't know, but this is a tag off a car that hit me in Sturgis on August 9th of 23. I was traveling between a town called Lead and Deadwood, and a blue-haired lady in a Hyundai decided to run a stop sign and took me out over the hood of her car. I was riding my 2019 Road Glide. She totaled it, took out two other bikes going the other direction. I was wearing a leather jacket, good pants, boots, and a showy helmet that day. The war story is worse. Is the day before, and this is why I told you I'm not a hypocrite. That was a Wednesday. The Tuesday before, I had been out on my chopper, and I had taken it out to see my friend Sugar Bear, who was the front end was made by. And that's a longer ride than a long ride. And that day I was wearing a bandana, a do-rag, the same jacket, boots, and pants, but I wasn't wearing a helmet that day. If I'd have got hit on Tuesday riding the chopper, as opposed to Wednesday when I decided to wear all my gear, I think the outcome would have been different for me. So I think that helmets should be by choice of the individual, not legislated. That's my personal beliefs. But I think we ought to make that decision to wear a helmet. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we have a lot of traffic cameras around the city, and so we see a lot of footage on wrecks. And I have seen some motorcycle crashes that were fatalities in this city. Had they been wearing a helmet, I don't even think they would have been hurt.
Yeah, I think I would have been hurt worse on that day when I got hit by the Hyundai if I would not wear a helmet. But I do see cases where, and there's arguments back way, but I wear a helmet by choice now
Yeah.
because of what I've been through. But yeah, that was kind of an eye-opening experience when you're going over the hood of a car. And I've been riding a long time. I mean, this was only a couple of years ago in 23. So yeah, the helmet I think protected me a lot that day, and I'm glad I was wearing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I'm saying I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, because I was not wearing the gear the day before, and I still don't wear all the gear all the time, but I do try to wear a helmet now at least.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think it's a personal choice. I don't want anybody telling me I have to do something, but it would scare me to death, and I would never do it. Ride a motorcycle without a helmet.
Now, what other things could people do to prevent it? I mean, we need to be observant to what's around us and look around and that kind of thing too. But do you see a pattern in the motorcycle's behavior that leads to wrecks?
So just carelessness, if you're following too close, driving at an unsafe speed, especially, I think the number one thing is just they're not trained. They just riding a motorcycle is pretty easy if you go straight and you don't do any kind of slow speed stuff. You just have to balance. But just inexperience is, like I said, falling too close. You're not paying attention. They did a study out of Oregon that we show, University of Oregon, I think, that we show in our class, and they did some kind of glasses or something where they saw where riders were looking as they were riding, and they showed an inexperienced rider versus an experienced rider. And obviously an experienced rider is always looking around everywhere, looking for the threats, looking where and then the inexperienced is looking pretty much just directly in front of them. They're not aware of their surroundings, and you just can't not do that on a motorcycle.
So I was going to tell the audience something. So I reached out to you a week or two ago through a friend of mine, Tim Ivy,
Yes.
who was a former motor cop. And I got you on the phone and I introduced myself because we aren't close friends. And what was the first thing you said?
I said, I think I stopped you before for speeding.
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think I was on my road glide at the time, heading
Yeah.
south on Santa Fe. Yeah, that wasn't a good. But yeah, and I'm going to go back to what you just said. I'm going to circle back to this in a minute. But I was working with my son Nick riding, and he had his license. And we took a trip out on Route 66 toward Lake Tenkiller. And we had comms in the helmet, and I was following him, and just not having chit chat, but I'm like, what are you thinking? What do you see?
Yeah.
And what gear are you in? What are you doing? And I see a car. We were on the 66, so it's not a major highway. So it was nice to talk to him. Go, what are you looking at now? Do you see that car? What are you doing to get ready for the turn ahead?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a coaching thing. And it was kind of a fun experience because I think you're right. New riders get tunnel vision. Well, every rider does. You can get tunnel vision and not pay attention, or you can look at the hazard and end up in the hazard. But it was kind of nice to be able to talk to him and go, okay, what do you see ahead of you? How are you preparing for this intersection?
Yeah.
Are you looking around? Do you see that car passing that's coming? Whatever it is.
So good for you.
It was
Yeah.
kind of a cool deal too.
No, that gets them thinking, and it kind of goes back to us as police officers. When we're in the field training officer program after we get out of the academy, and then we ride with an experienced police officer, they're always going, okay, so what would happen if this person came out, or what if what would you do here? What would you do here? And it's kind of the same with motorcycle riding. Like, okay, I see a car coming up, slowing down to take a left turn. What if they pull out right in front of me? Am I prepared to stop? And that, so you kind of almost have to anticipate stuff. And
Yeah, and my wreck was different. We were going through an intersection. I had the right of way, and she was at a stop on my right, and I saw her stopped. And I checked her, and I said, just mentally, my car's stopped. I'm cleared to go. And I focused back on the street ahead of me, and I think she didn't either see me or she got impatient, but she accelerated right into me. So I didn't have anywhere to go.
yeah,
Next time I looked down, and the blue bumper was on my right side of my motorcycle. My leg was saved by the crash bars I had on the bike. The right crash bar was pushed back into the air filter. So yeah, that kicked me off the motorcycle.
yeah. And there's some situations there's just nothing you can do.
She was stopped. I know she was.
Yeah.
She didn't just run the stop sign. She was stopped, and then she accelerated out. But anyway, so tell me about you. Do you now ride for fun at all?
So interesting. Like I said, I started in 1998. I rode for 4 years, and then I got off the motor unit and went back to patrol. And I did not touch a motorcycle. I've never had my own motorcycle, and I did not touch a motorcycle for probably 12 years or something like that. And then when I got promoted, I was able to go back to traffic and take over the unit. And so I thought, well, I better make sure that my riding skills are still there. And so I went through a 3-week Northwestern University class that they came here, and It was an police instructor course that they teamed up with Harley-Davidson. So they brought the Harley-Davidsons out, and we did a 3-week course where we actually taught officers from around the nation. And that's when I got back on motorcycles, and I've been back for 7 years. So I've been riding for 12 years through a 29-year span or 26-year span or whatever, but never had my own motorcycle. But I fly around a lot. This is one of my hobbies, is to fly into different locations and rent motorcycles at Eagle Rider. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of Eagle Rider?
I do, yeah.
Okay. So I've taken many trips around the nation, like all through Wyoming, all through California, Arizona. You went Tail of the Dragon, all the good stuff. And so I've got a map on my wall, that I do my rides, and my goal is to get the whole United States, all the good rides.
Now, do you pick the same bike every time, or do you vary different bikes?
I always go with a Harley-Davidson. We used to ride BMWs here, which are a very nice bike. I enjoyed it. But for some reason, I like the comfort of the Harley when on long rides. And it's crazy because I don't like to drive on vacation. I don't like long drives. I'd rather fly. Even an 8-hour drive to me is miserable. But you put me on a motorcycle and I could go for days and days. It's so strange for people that don't ride. They don't get it. It's just a different experience.
It's so relaxing. And we have a common friend that passed, CJ, and he was a dear friend of mine, and he was a part of that process when you changed from BMWs to Harley. So were you in that process as well?
I was.
So what made the decision to go from a BMW to a Harley?
So we were having a lot of maintenance issues with the BMWs. They were 2013, and we'd ridden them pretty hard. So to be fair, they had some maintenance issues, but we were having a hard time getting the maintenance on them. I think the only game in town was Eurotech that we were taking them to. And then they were having some mechanics turn around, and it was just some issues. I know, like OHP and Oklahoma City, I think they're still on BMWs, but they were taking theirs to Texas to get maintained. And so it was just a hassle to try to get the maintenance on them. And so when we went to Harley-Davidson, we have a local Harley-Davidson shop here, and they maintain them, so it's much easier.
And which one do you like riding better?
I like them both. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. The BMWs are very, very smooth, and they turn a lot sharper. And so, like, if you're going to go out and do a motorcycle rodeo type thing for time and all that, I'd rather have a BMW. But for the cool factor, we get a lot more respect on the Harley-Davidsons.
Well, and I rode a BMW for a few years. I had a K1200 GT, and it was a fantastic motorcycle, and I loved it. It was blue, it had heated seats, grip, electric windshield, all that kind of stuff. But it never just thrilled me. And at the same time, I had a Harley Deuce, anniversary Deuce, and it was nowhere near the motorcycle of the BMW, but I had them both at the same time. And actually, I got over Bikes and Blues in Arkansas on the BMW, and it just wasn't fun. And I got back, and I have this saying that if you get off your motorcycle and you don't look back, then you have the wrong motorcycle. I wasn't looking back at the BMW. So even though the Deuce was nowhere near the bike performance-wise, it's kind of a dog, actually. The BMW is a far superior motorcycle, but the Harley, the cool factor, just the fun factor, was definitely there.
Yeah, definitely a little more respect on the Harley.
Absolutely.
I find.
Absolutely. Well, I want to take a change in pace here for a second and tell a story, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I mentioned my son here for a minute. We may have to edit this out. I'm not sure how it's going to go. But I don't know if you knew this or not, but I'm going to do this as best I can. CJ was a dear friend. And I had my son, Nick, and I wanted him to learn to ride motorcycles. I wanted him to learn the right way. And I don't think parents are the best teachers for motorcycles. And Nick could ride about anything. He'd been riding dirt bikes and all this kind of stuff. And I had bought a Harley Superglass out in the garage. So 2017, I'm looking through text with CJ. June 7th of 2017 at 6:13, he sends me pictures, and I'll try to maybe show these another day. And it's a shadow of him. He's at Edmond North, and that's my son on the motorcycle. And he sent me these pictures that day, and it's of my son riding the motorcycle. And what CJ would do is I would ride the bike over, or CJ would ride the bike over, and my son would ride his car over. And then CJ would put out cones and work with my son.
Power, power,
Because
power,
I
power,
wanted my
power.
son to be a good, safe rider. And then this is not probably good for what we're doing. But CJ sent me a video of him working with my son. And it's the coolest thing to have that. But because I loved him dearly. But the work he put into my son was just really cool. So
CJ was a very special individual. He, by far, one of the best instructors I've ever seen teach motorcycle classes. And he was an excellent rider, probably one of the best riders we had at this department. Very loved motorcycles, just really, really good and patient with people.
he was so awesome, my son, because I didn't want to go over there with him. I let him work, and he put out cones, and I mean, it was days he'd work with my son. And my son got his endorsement, you know, when we did the trip to 10 Killer. But yeah, CJ was very patient and an excellent instructor.
Excellent.
He would never let me pay him. And I'm like, look, this is your off time. You need to get paid for this. And he wouldn't take my money.
Yeah, when it came to motorcycle safety, if he could help somebody, he was awesome.
Wow. Todd, I want to thank you for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is Let Out the Clutch, brought to you by My Biker Attorney, and I'm glad to have you today. Thank you. If you're enjoying these videos, please like, subscribe, and provide comments. Make us recommendations on what you'd like to see next in the shows. Thank you for watching.